Hey, what's up? This is Chosen, and in honor of the Guaranteed Summit event that happened for Allure recently, I thought this was a good opportunity to get an updated guide out on the channel where we deep dive, discuss how to build Allure for success and where she is going to shine the most as we head into the second half of 2023. Now, I did a poll over on the channel. Super excited, by the way, that we got 7.5 thousand votes on this. I love when all of you participate in the polls. It really helps me keep a pulse of what's going on out there in the raid universe past just my perspective. So we see 50% of people, about a perfect 50-50 ratio on if people thought that it was worth summoning the Guaranteed Allure for 30 ancient shards. So we may have a lot of new players acquiring a copy of Allure. So let's get in how to build her for success. Okay, so first of all, this is going to be the Allure that I have built on my account, and I have got this one right here with the heart icon. That means this is my main Allure, but I also have a second Allure right here. That's actually a higher blessing, just the way that my awakening stuff worked and who got which gear. But Allure is one of those champions that you probably want to keep 2 copies of because she is insanely useful, and there are actually some compositions where you're going to want 2 different Allures built when you're trying to take down certain boss fights or stuff like that. It can end up being an option, and you'll want that available to you on your account. So that means that Allure is a perfect candidate right here, as you can see right above, to use in your Demon Spawn Guardians slot because she is one that you can definitely justify keeping 2 copies of. But there is also a few things we need to understand about Allure's context as a champion because there's a little bit more nuance to her. Now, the main reason that she is very iconic in Raid is because of her default ability called this Psychic Whip that attacks 3 times at random and decreases the target's turn meter by 25% on each critical hit. Some people forget about that critical hit, so you do have to build her with high crit rate to take advantage of consistent turn meter manipulation on her A1. Now, in a lot of strategies, people are going to be turning off her A2 and A3 because what they want her to do is just slam this turn meter suppression every single turn, and then people build her in high speed to get as much turn meter decrease from her as possible. And one of the side effects of that is a pretty cool feature about Allure is that you don't even need to book her. If you are an early game, free-to-play type player, Allure is one of those champions that you can get some value out of on your account without feeling the pressure to spend all of the books to max out all of her abilities because we're just getting damage on the A1 that we don't need on Allure. We're not caring about her damage, most builds that use her. And then the A2, you're getting cooldown and stuff like that. But again, a lot of strategies revolve around just turning off her A2 and her A3. So yeah, if you want to use an unbooked Allure, there's nothing wrong with that. But then when it comes to gearing Allure and building up her stats, she's actually one of the more difficult champions in the game to build because she needs basically every single stat, and it becomes very difficult to have good enough gear to build her properly. Now, her base attack is very good, but we don't typically care about getting good attack on her. We're going to be building her with toughness, speed, accuracy, and then also remember we have to get that crit rate on her as well. And because Allure's base stats are so low, her HP at 14k, her defense at 790, very tough to make her tough enough and have enough toughness to survive in some of the end game content because she is so squishy. So you got to get a good amount of toughness stats on her. And then you also have to build her insanely fast so that she cranks out and cycles through turns to get as much turn meter suppression off as possible. And then she needs a very high accuracy score. Otherwise, she's not going to land her turn meter decrease when you're trying to use her in endgame content like the Dark Fae Astronix in the Doom Tower. And if you don't get her up to 100% crit rate, you're not going to have a reliable team because she won't be doing turn meter suppression on every single time. And then on top of that, she's a magic affinity champion. So if her default A1 ability hits weak, like if she's attacking a force affinity Fire Knight stage, if she hits weak, she's not going to be getting any of the turn meter decrease. So she's one of those rare champions where an affinity breaker set could make sense, but the affinity breaker set is just so underwhelming that even on someone like Allure, where you would get some value out of it, you don't see it used very often. And then you might be noticing, but Chosen, you only have 89% crit rate on your Allure. What is going on? You didn't even build your Allure properly. Well, I was building my Allure for a Dark Fae farming team in the Doom Tower. And as long as my team is like a 75-80% win rate, it's fine because silver keys are free in the Doom Tower. And that's where I use my Allure. So it's okay if I fail a run every now and then. My team is pretty reliable. I just kind of set it to farm Dark Fae, and my Allure slides in there, and 90% of the time she's perfectly fine at 89% crit rate, but you would be right if you were observing that. In most situations, you're going to want your Allure to be consistent and be a 100% crit rate. If you're using her for like a Fire Knight team, that's costing you energy that isn't free. So you would want your Allure to be 100% crit rate. I'm doing the hard Fire Knight and I'm not using an Allure in the context of the Fire Knight. But if you are, you do want to get her up to 100% crit rate in most situations and most builds. And I actually have footage of that team right here from one of my previous videos where you and see the Allure right there, boom, decreased turn meter. And that wasn't a good proc. That wasn't very lucky. But you can see I've got her fast enough right there. Boom. Look at that was 3 decreased turn meters right there from Allure. And then she's going to be coming up right there, and bang, 3 turn meter decreases from Allure. So in this Dark Fae Ashe Phoenix team, even for me, very end game, farming the final boss of the hard version of the Doom Tower, Allure slides in the build that you see her in this video, and she is extremely successful and powerful in that composition, and she's almost the MVP with constantly suppressing the turn meter of the boss so that the rest of my team isn't able to do their thing and have enough time to defeat the boss. And then when it comes to the gear, you're going to want to put on her most times, you're going to get an accuracy banner. Now, if you have plenty of accuracy, maybe you're just using her for the Fire Knight and you only need like 230 accuracy or whatever, well, then you can go with like a flat defense banner if you have plenty of accuracy and you don't need it on the banner, because her base defense is so low that getting a big defense roll on the banner could actually help you keep her alive in a situation like the Fire Knight. On the amulet, ideally, we want to get accuracy on it, like 2 or 3 rolls, and then we also want to be prioritizing defense and HP. Now you'll see here again, I've got crit damage on mine because I had enough accuracy and toughness to keep her alive in the content I'm using her in. There was actually a Shield Maidens tournament where we had to build a female only Fire Knight 25 team, and I used Allure in that, and when I was min-maxing for the speed run, I put crit damage on her to make sure I could just squeeze out that little bit of extra damage and try to get my time as low as possible. But for most of you out there, you're going to want an HP or defense amulet on her, and then get 2 or 3 of the accuracy substat rolls down below. Now on the ring, again, you want as much HP and defense as you can get because she is a very squishy champion. The boots are basically always going to be speed. You want her to be 250, 300, 340 speed, something like that, because you want her cycling through as much as possible to get that default A1 off as many times as she can. Now on the chest, I went with accuracy. You can do that if you need to get up closer to that 500 accuracy for those endgame Doom Tower stages. Otherwise, you can go with defense or HP to try and give her a little bit of toughness. As you see right here on the gloves, I squeezed out a little bit of crit rate. It can be a good option on her if you've got good crit rate gloves that hit speed and accuracy substats. Otherwise, if you don't need the crit rate, if you can get up to like 90, 95, 100 without it, that's an option as well. You could just go with defense or HP on the gloves, but a lot of people are probably going to want to squeeze in those crit rate gloves to help them hit that tough threshold of getting up there to high crit rate on a champion that needs all the other stats as well. And then for the top pieces, it's pretty simple. We're looking for speed, crit rate, toughness, and all of those stat thresholds that are going to help us get to the point where we need on her build. Then for the Masteries, there's going to be a couple different choices you can go with, but usually the defense and offense tree is going to be a good choice, and a Giant Slayer is a great choice because she does have that triple hitter default, so you're going to get some pretty consistent damage procs if you're using her somewhere like the Fire Knight to help speed up your runs a little bit. Otherwise, you can go with Eagle Eye if you really need the accuracy to make sure she's landing the turn meter decrease, because that is the priority, but this should be a pretty generally useful Mastery setup here in most builds for Allure, as long as you make sure you have enough accuracy. And I can actually show you that Shield Maiden female only team that I had to build for the Fire Knight. I've still got it saved here in my dungeon custom teams, and I'll show you the team that I had put together here featuring Allure getting a bunch of value on the boss and why I was able to go with like crit damage and stuff like that. So this is Fire Knight 25, and this is a special team that I had to build for a tournament. So you can see I've got like, I think the rules were we had to use Rhonda, and then we had to use all female champions. So I've got like Lydia and Renegade there for the resets instead of Kymar, and Allure is obviously a great pick as well, and then Seer there for the nukes, so they'll be able to get to the Fire Knight here in about 30 seconds. And then you'll see Allure, boom, the triple hitter is also, she's like tailor-made to dominate in the Fire Knight because she's got the triple hitter, and then she's also got the turn meter suppression, and I've got everything turned off, so she's just going to do that A1 over and over right there. Boom, 3 turn meter decreases right there. There's definitely some RNG involved with the shield and some of the damage dealing and all of that, but super successful and amazing Allure situation right here to crank out the ridiculous turn meter suppression. You see that the Fire Knight is never going to get his shield back. Allure has enough speed at like 300 something to just cycle through, and look at the turn meter just constantly get slammed down. So you're going to typically be getting the most value out of Allure in the Fire Knight, and also like some Doom Tower bosses like the Dark Fae. Could be decent in faction wars as well, but she's not going to be like a PvP champion or a general utility progression champion. She's going to shine in moments like this where you have her in a specific situation to fill the specific role of fitting within a composition to keep the turn meter suppressed. And I do also have an Allure snapshot infographic that I will link down below if you want to be able to pull this up on your end and just kind of see like an overall view of Allure here with the infographic. But I appreciate all of you, and it would mean a lot to earn your subscription today if you enjoyed this video. I will see you soon in the next video. Thanks for watching. Peace.